podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
You're listening to Achtung Millwall, broadcasting from the beautiful South Birmingham. Accept no substitute.
Hello, dear listeners. Well, to paraphrase an old Jam song, I found myself watching a strange game this morning. I watched the playback of Saturday's 2-2 draw with Sheffield Wednesday away. In real time, I followed it via Twitter, X, as it's known now, because I was at a kid's birthday party. But it's certainly a strange old affair. And joining me to chew over the cud of Saturday's strangest game is Merv Payne. You've been seeing a few matches in your time, Merv.
Yes,
I think that was one of the strangest I think I've ever seen in terms of incidents and the outcome and where we were even winning it at one point. I think it was one of the most bizarre games I think I've ever seen.
It was, yeah. I don't know if it's a Millwall thing or a Sheffield Wednesday thing, because they seem to have been involved in a few of these lately as well. I think it's something in the water, in the Sheffield water, perhaps. I remember watching their playoff game with Peterborough and thinking, that has made you realise literally anything can happen in football. And when we went 2-1 up on Saturday, I thought, wow, how on earth we pulled this off? And of course, before I could even celebrate properly, it was 2-2.
It was 2 each.
Yeah.
Very odd. Very odd. As I said, listeners, I followed it via Twitter because I was otherwise engaged at the time. Let's run through the team on Saturday, Merv. Jensen in goal, back line of Leonard, Tanganga, Wallace and Brian. Saville Denoy in front of them, then up front, S.A. Honeyman. Well, I didn't think he played too badly, Honeyman, on Saturday. Aziz, and then in front of them, the boy, Ivanovic. Now, really odd first half. I mean, many have described it as woeful, and we've got one or two voice notes to come, Merv, where people have described it as woeful, and I can kind of accept it because obviously we were goal down early, and there were other incidents, but we actually had moments, not least straight from kickoff. Pretty much, we had a little bit of a scramble. I think people tend to forget afterwards that we did have moments. There was a shot late in the half by Aziz that went over the bar, decent effort. That said, I'm trying to find the positive. We were on the back foot quite a bit, especially with that early goal. Poor goal to concede, Merv, I thought.
Yeah, I think there's always a problem. So we're in a bit of a rut because you've had not a great Christmas sort of period. I suppose the last season obviously was the Christmas was the one time when the Joe Edwards Millwall really seemed to click. I think we came through Christmas and New Year with 4 wins on the spin. And that was after, obviously, his first game being a 4-0 win at Sheffield Wednesday. So I think we've got to that stage now where, because so many of our games are either goalless or decided by one goal, when you concede that early goal, and I thought this, to be honest, there's a tendency of thinking, well, that's it.
Yeah.
That's it. This is another 1-0, and it's not going to be us that's winning it 1-0. But yeah, I
agree.
It wasn't as bad as people made out. It wasn't great, but Wednesday are on a bit of a roll. They've had some good form. They're moving up the table. And, it wasn't quite as bad as people are making out, and we almost need to win.
We almost need to win. I mean, it was a strange game. I mean, we've said that already, listeners, and I don't want to I'm not saying that anyone that judged it as a woeful performance is wrong. It's because I'm just done a few notes as I watched the playback this morning. Early scramble inside the first minute. I thought really it's more one of these games, a bit like what we had with Oxford, really, Merv, where we weren't creating much directly, but we had an attacking intent, whatever that may be. But we looked like we wanted to get forwards, albeit one or two players out there looked pretty tired. I think probably the main worry I have, and it was mentioned by Max and Carl in the commentary, is that one or two senior heads were dropping, and the body language at times just looked a bit. Is the point you just made? I think that people, members of the team not believing in their ability to claw their way back into games, and if the senior boys are dropping, then that's not going to bring the youngsters along so much. And I think that's my main concern. I'm sure that will be noted at half time by Alex Neil, because we did come out with a better shape in the second half. Having got some through the first half, only 1-0. I mean, the goal, just to dwell on that, I mean, it was a poor goal to concede. Whether you can argue George Saville went for the wrong man, the man that he left behind was the guy that put the ball in the net. Denor lost the midfield tackle. It seemed to be a bit of a tired legs out there, Merv. Would you say? A lot of football.
It feels like, seems like it, yeah. But like I say, there was a bit of a case of here we go again syndrome, which did for Joe Edwards. I think if the players aren't fully on board with how they're being told to play, perhaps. I mean, I'm only speculating or guessing, and I'm not suggesting that already with Alex Neil because I see a lot of people have criticised Alex Neil already. We're not even such
barely had a moment with him.
Well, yeah, I think people were expecting a new manager bounce when we've probably brought in a new manager at the worst possible time because he's literally had. I think he said he's literally going to have 1 hour on the training pitch with the team before each of these two games. So he actually said he was going to wait. He's going to lean heavily on Livermore to guide him and pick guide him. And obviously he's had input. And what I was impressed with was how he spoke on it. Both the times I've heard him speak, he speaks very differently to Neil Harris. Neil Harris was quite. I'm not sure how to describe it, but Alex Neil was very old school, and in his post-match interview, he was very keen to go into sort of the details of what he didn't like, what he did like, and what he wanted to change, and that sort of thing. Whereas he sort of felt, and this was one of the criticisms of Neil Harris, was that it was a case of, repeating the same thing over and over again and expecting a different outcome. I think he was always perhaps reluctant to change things around too much. Whereas Alex Neil came out and said, I told him I wasn't happy with the first half, so we did this and that, changed this and that, and it was a bit better in the second half. So that's encouraging, definitely.
I think there was a sense with Harris, particularly towards the end, Merv, I don't know if you'd agree, that we were slightly getting into the zone of washing our dirty linen in public. And I think that this feud, this personality clash, whatever you want to call it, was unhelpful all season. I think that practically every press conference seemed to revolve around that for me. Yeah. That's gone.
Political, didn't it?
Yeah, for no great purpose because it doesn't get you anywhere. But I mean, we were a goal behind early, so there it is. We had an early melee in the first minute, then we were a goal behind. But another player that gets a lot of criticism because he's only 19 and he's got to develop. Is the Serbian boy Mihailo Ivanovic. He does look lightweight up front. So did Richard Sadlier. Merv, you'll remember his early days way back when he looked like he was nowhere near it. And the boy's got to develop. He's got to develop strength on the balls up against some serious defenders at times. Yeah. And he's come off once or twice the worst. But he had a good shot on. What have I noted here? Ball breaks. If I'm shot wide, 13 minutes, just wide, just wide. These. My point really being that despite the kind of misery fest that the first half implied, we did have one or two moments where on another day maybe you get a shot in from and maybe it looks a different match then. But that said, Sheffield Wednesday certainly certainly came at us. What do you make of the penalty on 40 minutes? Move through the middle, soft penalty awarded. They said on I thought it looked like a penalty. I definitely Brian pushed him.
Really, and I think most of us thought that was game over once we saw that come up as a penalty being given. So I really don't think you can have any complaints now, to be honest, with that.
No, I mean they blasted over the bar. They're finishing. Wasn't great. I mean, shot across earlier on from that blocked shots and shots across goal, flashing across the penalty area, and we rode our luck, as they say, to get through
the post in the bar as well, didn't they?
Second half. Well, the woodwork came into it in the second half. Shots hitting the bar twice in the same move. I think they crossed and they hit the posts. And later on, with those two bullets in a few seconds, I've written there, and then there's another one later on, 75 minutes a shot. From the edge of the penalty area. I mean, Lady Luck was smiling on us, which makes a change, Merv, because generally she snarls at us, doesn't she? So somehow we're clinging on. The commentary said we're clinging on by a thread at the moment in the second half. And, up until that point, I'd say that the criticism was probably fairly valid. We got a touch of luck with the equaliser, which wasn't a great flighted ball forwards from Savile. I mean, we've mentioned a few times over these shows, Merv, the poor quality of crossing and sometimes the balls forward. But we caught break up to, and it almost deflected it through into the path of Honeyman. So they slotted it away very coolly. So we've got a bit lucky there, if you like. We've still got to do work to put it in the net. And they did very well there, I thought, George Honeyman. Nice finish.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about Honeyman because I know he's not exactly a fan favourite by any means.
No.
Well, but I do remember when we first signed him, a lot of fans were impressed with him for various reasons. Some of his sort of set piece work and stuff like that. And also, even this season, I think we've discussed it about fans were impressed with his work rate, and they realise that he's not the most naturally gifted of players, but he grafts, and we're led to believe that's what Millwall fans want. They want you to work your socks off. But the recent weeks, I think some of the stick he's got has been a bit unfair. I mean, and I don't think there was any doubt that when he scored his goal, his celebration perhaps reflected that.
Yeah, no, he's entitled to it as well. Yeah. He's entitled to it.
Yeah, he took it well. Like I say, he can't have imagined he was going to get that ball. Suddenly it's at his feet. He had a good touch and finished it really well. But I really don't think he's the villain of the piece that people are making out. It is quite it's quite strange when I think once fans get a scapegoat. Once there's it's a bit like, I don't know if you watch Traitors at all.
I have watched it in the past. I haven't watched this series so far, but I know the series. So
what always makes me laugh, and they're all around the round table. Once someone, once a couple of voters get into some, you see everyone jumping on the bandwagon. It's a big pile on because they think, at least if everyone's voting for them, at least it's not going to be me. And I think that's what happens with footballers sometimes. I think one player can maybe make a bad mistake or have a bad game, and the few fans will jump on him. And then it's when the form of the team doesn't pick up, it's really easy to just pile the blame on him. And I think people read a lot more into the fact that Harris's first game after Harris, Honeyman didn't start. Yeah. But he's played since, and I don't think he's that bad a player.
I'll tell you who he reminds me of, and I mean, I've probably already lost half my audience by saying we weren't that bad in the first half, because we did have a few moments, albeit on the back foot. So anyway. If the other half that's still remaining from the from that comment might lose them now, but Honeyman is a work rate player, and the greatest work rate player that I can think of is Kevin Keegan back in the 70s, who was not. He was no Johan Cruyff, Merv. He was not one of the greats of the game. He achieved great status, and I'm not comparing George Honeyman with him, listeners, but the same idea that you substitute what should we call it, natural talent. I don't know, God-given, Jules' best God-given levels of talent, you substitute that by hard work and run and keep, you're always there, you're always on offer. And that's who Honeyman reminds me of in that sense, not levels, but he don't stop running, does he?
No.
And I'll take my hat off to him.
Yeah, it's a really good comparison, that, because there was a class, I think it was when Liverpool first won the European Cup in the 70s. I can't remember. But I've seen a documentary about it, and they explain how Keegan was basically sacrificed that night, because he was told, just break the other team's play up, just frustrate them, wind them up, and enable sort of gaps for the rest of the team, rather than be in the sort of rather than getting the glory, and he was prepared to do that. And I totally agree. I think Honeyman probably is that sort of workhorse player, and if you want a Millwall comparison, perhaps. I think Livermore during.
Well, I was just going to say Livermore.
During the era of Eiffel and Cahill and Reed and Harris and Sadlier and all these flair players. Livermore got a lot of stick, and I think we mentioned this a few weeks ago. You only really noticed when he wasn't playing, because he was pretty much never present. When he did, the few times he didn't play, you sort of felt there was something missing, a bit of a bite and a bit of an edge to the team that was missing. So, I think he does get a bit of a hard time. But, I
mean, Livermore used to get slated, and I always thought it's a very strange shit player that gets picked 300 plus times for a team, isn't it? And successive managers of some depth and experience keep picking this shit player because I don't know, and this, it's hard to stretch the comparisons too far. But I thought he put that equaliser away very well in a situation where many might have panicked. We saw panic from the Sheffield Wednesday side blasting penalties high over the bar and missing sitters all throughout the game. So there it is, one each. And just as I noted, we were looking a bit better, Merv. They go and hit the post from the penalty area. And then there's another chance a moment later where it flashes wide across the goal. I mean, they probably will feel, Sheffield, that they should have won that by 3 or 4.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Spread goals, you know. I mean, how they could have come away at one each, they probably would have felt was an injustice. But then I don't know what they would have done, what they would have thought when it went 2-1, because nice shot from Ryan Wintle from the shot of the pen.
Yeah, really
well
impressive.
placed. Yeah.
And some really impressive work from Aziz as well in the build-up for that goal, I thought. He looked really good again. And I mean, it is a shame that we've got Imaku, who is apparently a long-term injury now, because, say, between the two of them, and last time we spoke, we just beaten Blackburn. Yeah, Imaku had put in a great performance, and then, of course, within 10 minutes of Norwich, he's injured. And it's the same old story. You know, we talk about wanting more goals from the Serbian, but you know, he needs service, and we need to
needs support.
Yeah, we need to be creating good quality sort of chances and attacks, and that mostly comes from pace. You know, we've said it so many times. You know, you need to have a bit of pace and a bit of skill, and if you've only got one player like that, he's easy to snuff out.
Yeah,
if you've got two, if you've got Aziz on one side and you've got Imaku on the other, then it's quite easy to sort of like have a lot more luck.
So there we are. We miraculously get ourselves 2-1 ahead on 82. Nicely placed shot from the edge of the pen. And also, one thing I did note was that Wintle had a free kick effort, which wasn't that bad. I thought actually maybe we can get a dead ball, Merv, because since Fleming left.
Yeah.
Well, I was just looking at the Football League paper for the match report before we spoke, and there's Zian Fleming plastered all over the front page because he's won the Lancashire Derby with Burnley for Blackburn. So I thought there's a contrast in he could hit a dead ball. But no, I mean, I thought it was quite interesting that Wintle, got that goal, but also he had another effort that was, quite nicely placed. So there's something that maybe we can build. And I think probably what I would take out of the whole game was the fact that it wasn't 100% dire, listeners, and you might be screaming at your speakers or Siri or Amazon or whatever it is you got. But there were moments where we have something to build on there, Merv.
Yeah, definitely.
Disappointing to give the equaliser away. I mean, that's what I would. There's criticisms too, of course. Moments later, it's 2 each, flick header and 3-man at the far post. Loose defending, perhaps, I don't know. But disappointing there. But there was enough in it for me to say it wasn't 100% dire, and that was the impression I picked up. Sitting at the kids' birthday.
I totally understand any supporters who've travelled all the way up there for that.
Yeah,
you do see it through different eyes when you've been sat on a train or a coach for 3 or 4 hours, and it's freezing cold and chucking down the rain. I totally get that. We've all been there, and you do see it through different eyes. But we've got to try and take some positives away. I think. So Alex Neil did say that the Dagenham and Redbridge FA Cup game would be the first time that he would properly put out his Millwall team.
Yeah,
and like I say, I think I wasn't criticising Harris's sort of post-match comments before when I was comparing it to Neil's, but I think Harris was quite generic in what he used to say, which makes sense because you've got to be a bit of a politician. But like I say, Neil he seems to be very specific and very technical, which is good. And you've got to hope that I think Wintle, for example, I think we thought was going to be a bit of another sort of water carrier player. Yeah, he's showed that Wednesday he's got some flair, and you can only hope when you get a new manager in, he sees some of the players or all of the players through different eyes and sees different ways of playing them and a different way around it. We've got players coming back from injury, I understand. I think I've heard Scanlon's not far off.
Yeah, I read that or heard it. Yeah,
Cooper, even Coburn, and obviously we've got the window. So if a combination of all those things, hopefully it won't go quite as downhill as it did this time last year. I'll be surprised if it did. But yeah, fingers I think we've got plenty going for us at the moment. The injuries is always the key. We say it so many times, but I think last year that little run we had under Edwards came to an end when Hutchinson got injured, and then we lost.
Yeah, that's right.
And that's it. And we had no backup plan, no other way of shutting out and getting clean sheets. And And now people are obviously panicking that Tanganga's going to be sold in the window. You know, all sorts of clubs are sniffing around him, and Essie's going. But we've just got to hope that, you know, we come out of the transfer window with the squad strengthened rather than weakened. And I think if we do that, we'll be fine.
Let's take a short advertising break, listeners, and when we come back, we're going to have a listen to a long one from Jim Hackett, but worth listening to. So stay tuned, and we'll be back after these messages with Jim Hackett.
Achtung, Millwall.
Well, Nick, Jim Hackett here. After a night of stewing over what I thought was an absolutely woeful performance yesterday from Millwall. That first half, I think it's as poor as I've ever seen the Millwall team, and I've probably said that 2 or 3 times over the last season or two, but it really was shocking just to watch what should have been 11 professional footballers go out and deliver, especially to the poor old fans that had travelled all that way up to Sheffield to watch that. It was dire, it was unprofessional in my eyes, and it really does need some sort of sorting out. And Alex Neil has got his work cut out. I think he probably didn't realise it was as bad as it was, but now he's got to earn his corn and hopefully improve things. I think the team itself, and I can only go on the first half, because the second half there was a bit more fight, a little bit more quality once he made the substitutions, which he seemed to leave quite late. But once he did that, the second half wasn't too bad. But the first half, which is what I'm basing this on, I thought our back four were absolutely shocking. I think Leonard, I'd never seen him beat as often as he was yesterday, and he just didn't look right at all. And I don't know what's going on with him, but hopefully second half he did improve and he showed a little bit of leadership. Tanganga, looks like something might have happened with him, because he's gone right off. Yesterday, he just wasn't at the races. He just didn't seem to be able to do anything or show any inclination to do anything either. There was nothing in his performance that said that he's going to be with us long term, and he had the club at heart. So I was disappointed with him. And then you go on the left side, and with the best will in the world, Murray Wallace is, unfortunately, he's an accident waiting to happen. And again, yesterday, if you watch their first goal back, just as the guy gets the ball in the box, Murray should be going out to him, slips. And it's only a stumble, but it's just a long enough stumble to allow the lad to get a shot in and score the goal. And it was just a regular thing with Murray. He's just always a step away from cocking up. He gets away with it a lot of the time, but when he doesn't, but he costs us big style. And that's yet another one. And then Joe Bryan, I've tried not to dig him out at all, over the last few months where everybody else has. But I have to say, yesterday he was found wanting. His defending is so bad. And, when you're a fullback, and, if you went to defending school as a fullback, then defending 101 will be stop the opposition getting a crossing. And the one thing with Joe Bryan, you can guarantee it will allow the crosses to go in, because he just isn't strong enough as a fullback to defend and get in front of crosses and throw his body in the line. He does it at different times, but in that basic defensive side of things, he doesn't get it right, and it costs us goals. The goals both came down the left-hand side, and both could have been cut out, before the cross come into the box. The penalty they got, again, down the left-hand side, and it wasn't a massive touch he did, but it just looked, my initial thought was that he pushed him. And then when you look at it back in slow motion, he touches him and the leg goes down. But in this day and age, it seems to be enough to get a penalty for other teams. We never get that sort of thing. So from there, you go into our midfield, and you got Casper, who's probably had his worst game that I've ever seen him play since he's been with us. Everything he did, he seemed to want to hold the ball too long, and he got caught. And he got caught for their first goal, and he got caught for just before the penalty. So, it really sort of sad to see him sort of go so far down in terms of quality. But then when you look at who he's playing with, Savage just so one pace now, and everything we do that goes through him gets slowed down. I think with Casper, he's trying to get the ball moving forward, and he's trying to get any transitions, with a bit of pace. But as soon as he gets to Savage, it just falls apart. And I think there's something that Alex Neil will have looked at, and I'd like to think that he'll take some sort of action on it. Our wire players yesterday, And again, go back to the first half. I thought they were anonymous. I thought SA and Aziz weren't at the races, and they just didn't look like the sort of exciting wingers that we've had over the last 3 or 4 months. And I don't know what's gone on there, but it's just no ambition there. And I think SA looks, I don't know, you can't say to me, looking at him yesterday, that lad is Premier League level, because he's not. And that maybe is why clubs aren't queuing up for him. And there might be the odd club saying, they're taking a look at him and they might fancy him, but nobody's come in with a definite anything, because I think he's still got a lot to learn. And if he can't do it at Millwall, then he's not going to get an opportunity in the Premier League to learn. So let's hope he can sort of lift himself up a bit, and the same with Aziz. I think both of them second half played a little bit better, but the first half, which is what I'm basing most of this on because it was so bad, was not really there. Ivanovic, I watched him a little bit longer yesterday, and my sort of thoughts about Ivanovic are he's a young striker who's very reactive. He's not proactive yet because he hasn't got that experience, and I think that's the little bit that will come in time, because he's got attributes that he can use. Unfortunately, because he's reacting all the time, and I would imagine being a second language and everything that goes with that doesn't help him. But at some point he will come good, because there was a couple of things he did yesterday that actually looked quite decent. He had a shot that was just off target. He had a couple of headers that were good. So for me, he's just a project, isn't he, that hopefully will get right at some point. George Honeyman, the interesting one yesterday, because I thought he was my man of the match. Never stopped running, never stopped digging in, never stopped working, and even when he moved back into the midfield, I thought suddenly we looked a little bit livelier. I know Ryan Wintle came on as well, and between them, those two showed more fight in the sort of 10, 15 minutes they had in the centre of midfield than we had all day, and it's a sad indictment of what we're putting in there now, game after game. If it takes George Honeyman and Ryan Wintle to go in there and show them what they should need. But that's yesterday's game out of the way, because it was just so bad. We got a draw, but we could have lost, we could have won, and it wouldn't have made any difference to my thoughts about that. I thought it was just a shocking performance. And to come away with a point, I don't think it's testament to anybody. I think it's just lucky that they hit the bar 3 times, or probably 4 times, missed the penalty. So, we can't look at it and say, well, we dug in and we got something out of it, because that's a load of bollocks. It's just absolute woeful. I think Alex Neil needs to get into the recruitment side of things, and between him and Gallen, they've got to look at our left side. They've got to look at our defensive left side, because there's absolutely nothing there. If we can get a target man, great, and I'm sure Alex Neil must know some, because there's got to be strikers out there that would just do a job for us just to get to the end of the season. And then when we get to the end of the season, as long as we're safe, then he can get rid of. But the after squad, I think, when you look at them, they don't help themselves. If they're given chances for new managers, that new manager bounce is going backwards for us. So I don't know what's happened there. And then we've got 9 days to sort out before our next game. And for me, going against Dagenham and Redbridge, if he's got 9 days to sort a team out and sort of define a style, then I think what he should do is throw it in against Dagenham and Redbridge and really just see what he's going to get out of them, because they're a team that we should beat, but he can't take it lightly and put half the reserves and half the young kids in there, because that doesn't actually do us any good if we go to the next game where the team hasn't played for 2 weeks, because they're not good for it. I think if we can get some sort of identity, play it against Dagenham, go forward with it, and then see where we are. But unfortunately for Alex Neil, there isn't any more free hit games, and those 2 that he had, because he had no coaching with the players, and that excuse is gone now. There's absolutely no excuse now going forward that the team aren't at least prepared and have a style and a defined way of playing. So I'll suffer another 3 games if I have to, because there are going to be a sort of a work going forward. But like I say, I'll suffer another 3 games before assessing Alex Neil. But if there's no recruitment going to go on, I think you possibly see us relegated, and that all will come out of nowhere when you look at how the first half of the season's gone. Anyway, Nick, I've dragged on too long here, because I'm getting on my own nerves talking about that and about yesterday and the way things are going. So unfortunately, we've got another day of thinking about it. But onwards and upwards we go. So on to Dagenham and Redbridge. So come on, you Lions.
Thank you, Jim. Scathing stuff there, Merv.
Pretty downbeat, wasn't it?
Downbeat.
Yeah.
And it makes I feel like my optimistic start to the show today is now fluttering like Lord Nelson's flag at Battle of Trafalgar, shot to pieces. I mean, there's some good points in there. I don't know if I'd go as far as Jim in terms of some of the conclusions. I mean, I'm just looking at some of the words and note down: dire, shocking, unprofessional. Certainly for me, Merv. How about you? The back four are Father Time creeps up on all of us, mate.
Yeah,
and I think that's the thing here. A lot of football and Father Time.
Yeah, I said this back in August that we didn't recruit anywhere near enough in the defence in the summer. Whether you like it or not, the defence we started this season with was actually weaker than the one we finished last season with. If that's only because Brooke Norton Cuffey wasn't kept or went back.
Yeah.
But they're a season older. So, you know, with all the will in the world, say Wallace, it's hard to criticise him. But he's off the pace as it is. But with every passing game, the Championship passes him by even more. Leonard's a cracking player, and we've been lucky to have him free of injury for a couple of seasons now, or a season and a half. But playing week in, week out, he's going to flag. You know, he's not getting any younger either. He's, time's catching up with him, and we need a strong enough defensive squad to be able to rest people like Leonard and not rely so heavily on Harding. And it's understandable if Tanganga gets jaded because of what's on him. I just think the defence is so. I don't know what's going on with Wes Harding. I really don't.
No, that's an intriguing one, isn't it?
Yeah, for a defence that is so paper thin, for Harding to not even feature is bizarre. And the Joe Bryan debate has been raging for a while now, and I've said for a long time that he's a decent player, but he's not a defender. And I saw a really good post on Facebook about this, which explained the situation perfectly. And that is that Joe Bryan was brought in under Gary Rowett, who was playing at the time with a three-man defence or three central defenders, two wing-backs pushing on. And that is the player Bryan is. I mean, I had a good mate of mine who's a Fulham fan, and he said that's a cracking signing because he'll absolutely smash it at that level. You know, he's a brilliant Championship player. He was great for us when we were in the Championship. But he said you've got to play him in the right position. And and obviously, the call they're saying, he's a left back, you've got to defend. He's not actually a left back. He's a wing back, or he's a left wing back, which is why he looks so. He goes AWOL. But you find that with a lot of wing backs, they'll be in the centre circle looking for a ball to start an attack while the other team are attacking and crossing to score. And it's just unfortunate. It's a flaw. It's just one of those we need. To play in this system, we need a traditional left back, and we haven't. I don't think we've had one for a while. But we need the defence needs bolstering. There's no doubt about it. And I think maybe Tanganga's probably starting to feel all at sea with it all. You know, I don't blame him for getting jaded, and Leonard's probably not got much left in the tank.
Well, especially if there's interest. I mean, Tanga will have drawn interest with Wolves or read to the internet line. His agent will be geeing that up, so it will be on your mind. All of them, Joe Bryan, we as you just said, I mean, everyone's debated Joe Bryan till the cows come home. If Scanlon is indeed in the offing, then I think that's good news. The injury to Danny Mack on the other side to relieve Ryan Leonard a little bit is, that's not that. I don't know how long Danny's out for, but that's been a blow. We've lost Jake Cooper, so they're playing a lot of football and they're aging. So we are seeing that unfold, and it's a cruel game, really, because you're at this level, a year or 6 months makes a difference, and you start to see quicker, faster opponents, and that's what we saw. Well, we've seen increasingly as the seasons worn along. So,
it sounds like fantasy stuff, but I think the sort of defence that Bryan would work in, and we've had these players in the squad individually in the last few years, is like a back three of like Tanganga, Cresswell, and Ballard, who's now sent out to Sunderland.
Ballard was
three really,
one of those
really good quality. Yeah, three top quality central defenders who can marshal the defence themselves, and that will give Bryan license to bomb forward, and whoever we have, whether it's Danny Mack on the right, so we've had the quality in the club over the last few years, but not all at the same time. And I think we need to be looking at that level of quality at the back. We need more than it's too much to just rely on Tanganga. He's the only probably top Championship quality stand, or probably Premier League standard defender we've got. The rest are just treading water, in my opinion, which is a shame. But that's the reality of it.
That's the reality of it, isn't it? And I mean, Jim mentioned the creative players, and by that we're talking about Romain Esse and Femi Aziz on Saturday. I mean, they weren't on it, that's for sure. I think Rome particularly has to find solutions to teams doubling up on him and crowding him out the game, because he's a known quantity now, Merv, and people plan for him, don't they? If he's going to go to the next level, Premier League level, as we all keep talking about, then he's got to find solutions to those kind of situations. But that's a higher level.
I have to disagree with Jim a little bit on that, because I think, I mentioned this after the Stoke game. I noticed a couple of times at Stoke he was trying stuff, and he needed the other players. There's a team of 10 outfield players. You can't have one really good one, and he can't change the game on his own. He needs a bit of quality around him as well. And you could see at Stoke on 2 or 3 occasions he was trying something. And he needed other players to be on the same wavelength, but they weren't.
To be options for him,
and to know what he's, to know what he's doing, to know what he's trying, and or to be able to be capable of achieving what he's trying. I think if he goes somewhere in the Premier League, I'm not going to say where because it makes me feel sick just thinking about it. But if he goes somewhere else in the Premier League, he'll have that quality around him. Yeah, he'll have that quality around him. Who will be on the same wavelength, and you will see that jump. I mean, I can remember. I've played football, and and you say I've done kids football and stuff like that, and you bring in one good quality player, and you think he's going to change the whole team, but he doesn't. You need more than one good quality player. You can't have one great player and sort of 7 or 8 journeymen and expect him to just carry the whole team. Football's such a massive team game; it just doesn't work like that. And also, you've got to give credit to the opposition, as you say. Esse is now a marked man; he's known, so they're thinking, we'll stuff him out. Stuff Millwall out because he's the only really talented creative outlet they've got. Whereas in the Premier League, he'll be one of 4 or 5.
Yeah, there'll be an option off the bench probably initially at least. So there we are. No, so good. Thank you, Jim, for that. As I say, it's a scathing indictment of the team. I'm not sure I'll go quite as far as Jim's take on it, but I hear you, mate, and. I'm certainly not saying Saturday's performance was anything other than lucky, which I think was Jim's choice of word there. Now we're going to take a short break again, and when Merv and I come back, we'll be listening to Chicago Joe, Rob Woodford, and Bobby T. Stay tuned.
Achtung, Millwall.
Hello, Joe from Chicago. Honestly, one of the funnier games you'll ever see. Millwall did not deserve to win in any way, shape, or form, but we get a point on the road. I'll take it. Shout out to my man, the Canadian Ike Ugbo, skying that. That would have been good as a field goal in the NFL or the Canadian Football League, but not in the championship. That was bad, and 3 shots off the post. Whew. Just Millwall needed one of these. We got to get some of these results in January, but I'll take it. Goals from the midfielders that were pretty funny and relatively lucky. Ivanovic needs to move off the ball. He doesn't. He just wants feeds, which works at lower levels, but doesn't in the Champo when you're going against actual center backs with strength. So, a lot to work on. I am so happy this team has a break. I'd love to know, did Billy Mitchell sleep with Steve Gallen's wife or something? Why? The fact that he can't get off the bench blows my mind. And, all credit to Wintle, and Saville's service was great today, but I just don't understand why Billy Mitchell can't get off the bench. And we were in a congested point. I'd love to know why, but whatever. A point on the road is always good. That was a ridiculous result. Kudos to Honeyman for finally doing something useful in the attacking half of the pitch and not doing something stupid like getting a foul called against him because he shoved someone and then complains about it, even though it was the most obvious foul ever. Cheers. So excited for this break. Still annoyed we're hosting Dagenham and Redbridge. That should be at the non-league ground. That would be so much more fun for everyone involved. But what are you going to do? Come on, you Lions. Hope you're well. Ooh, that was a long message. I'm sorry about that. Cheers.
Yeah, Rob Woodford from Block 4. Nick, look, that was a disappointing first half. It has to be said. And on the feed I was watching, you just had to get used to Batesy and commentary keep saying, here come Wednesday again. And that's what happens when you keep turning the ball over in midfield. We were piss poor, weren't we, to be honest? But whatever the gaffer said at half-time, we were much better in the second half. More pace, more movement, more composure on the ball, especially for our goals. And, it's another good point on the road, realistically, isn't it? With their penalty miss and those efforts that found the uprights, the Wednesday fans, well, they must have wound their way home scratching their bollocks, wondering how they never won that match. Well, the gaffer now has a couple of weeks to work with his players and get to know them before 2 crucial home games in the space of 4 days, both against opposition who are with us in the bottom half of the table. I don't believe we've reached the point of must-win games yet, but these are certainly looking like must-not-lose games. And in the 2 weeks before the games, the transfer window might produce some incomings and outgoings, but also, closer to having some of those injured players back, especially Big Jake Cooper. We do miss him, especially at the set pieces. Alex Neil's so-called Millwall project has just one immediate priority: to reach 50 points as quickly as possible and get us safe for what would be a record equaling 9th consecutive season in the second tier of English football. So we need 6 or 7 more wins to survive. And to do that, the Den just has to become a fortress again, doesn't it? Come on, you Lions.
Nico, Bobby T. First half was dog shite. Honey money, you want one. And now, don't close it. Okay. Sorry, I'm at work when it caught 2-1 Millwall. Ryan Whitnell, the old Cardiff Mill. We're back in it. Millwall. Bobby T, Nick Hart, 2-2. Shot ourselves in the foot. Same old normal, same old shit. Bye for now, 2-2. Nick Hart, Bobby T, what pains were we? 2 minutes, we can't hold the lead. Same old normal, frustrating, poor. Yeah, Bobby T, frustrated here, mate. Hillsborough finishes 2-2. I'm not happy. Winning 2-1. See the game out. Game management. Alex Neil's first point on the road. Bollocks. Should have hanged on there. Gutted. Fucking Hillsborough. 2-2 finishes. Not happy. Bye for now, Bobby T. Alright, Nick Hart. Full time. And I say it how it is, basically. I don't care about the cup. Dagenham and Redbridge. FA Cup, West Ham fans coming down. I don't give a flying fuck, mate. It's all about Cardiff and Hull. Next 2 home games. 6 points. If not, I think we're going to be going down. Bye for now. Oh, absolutely. I've just seen the second goal, Nick Hart. Fucking who was at the back post? Free on his own, 2-2. Very bad goal to give away. Not happy. Leonard, I don't know who was back post. Should have won that. Bye for now, Bobby T. Good evening, Nick Hart. Bobby T in London. Snow's falling down in some parts. And I've just listened to Alex Neil, our manager's aftermath. And you know what? The positive things are, I do like the fella. I like him. Played well, but again, at the heat of the moment, dropped 2 points. The way we conceded the second to get a point on the road, his first point. But looking back, I like this fella. And I said to you at the beginning, I didn't like Alex Neil, but now looking back on it, he's got 9 days now to look on the training ground. Danny Mack comes back, Cooper, Scallon. Joe Bryan, the wave thief, can fucking get sacked or dropped. So next 2 or 3 home games now are key. But I like Alex Neil, so I've gone back on my word. Positive going forward now. Got to pick up home games, Cardiff and Hull. Don't care about the cup, to be honest with you. We are a cup team. But Danny Mack left back. And then Cooper's back. 9 days on the training. Get playing Alex Neil's way. It's not the Millwall way, but it's a Scottish way. He's a Scottish man, Scottish club. Bobby T, Happy New Year. I'm happy with the point. Bye for now.
There we go. Thank you, Bobby.
Brilliant.
Yeah, it's a surge in emotion. I find it's like a roller coaster, Merv.
It's a real stream of consciousness, isn't it? Yeah, properly.
It certainly is. The surge of emotion and then the fall off and the despair back to
perfectly.
a few points that Bobby makes there. FA Cup, Dagenham, Redbridge. I don't know if there's any such thing as a free hit in football, but
no.
It's a game where we want to use it to get hopefully I think Jim said this at the start of the show. We want to get a win under our belts, Merv, and get a decent performance, a few goals if we can. That would be nice, wouldn't it? I don't know about a cup run, but certainly get past that game with a win just to get
you don't
loosen things up.
Yeah, cup run's probably ambitious, but you don't want to be getting dumped out by bloody Dagenham and Redbridge, do you? Because that'll just be another morale kicking the balls, really. But I do agree with Jim in that we shouldn't be looking at sending out a weak team. It should be, as fitness, depending on the fitness of the players, we should be. I think Alex Neil has pretty much said he wants that to be his first Millwall team. So hopefully we'll see a strong team and a morale boosting win. Rob makes a couple of good points. Like about needing to stay up a record 9th consecutive season in this.
It's quite an achievement.
It is, and I was surprised to find out. I don't know. I just stumbled upon this the other day that in the 25 seasons since obviously the new century, 18 of them have been at this level. Which for Millwall, which growing up they were predominantly a third division side, it's a good achievement, And I think we do forget sometimes that the goal every season has to be to stay up. It sounds a bit defeatist, but. It's a
reality check.
It's the 5th most competitive division in the world. People forget that it's so competitive. Yeah. And just because you finish 7th or 8th the previous season doesn't mean you're going to go one better the next season because everyone else is improving more than we can probably afford to do. And you look at again trying to look on the bright side. A lot of I think that the last two, I think Rob and Bobby T, and Jim actually mentioned that the fixtures are looking a bit more kind to us. It's not like we've got a succession of top 6 sides to play. I've just had a quick look now, and I think and a saying winnable is always a kiss of death. But I mean, 12 of the next 15 games are against teams that are in and around us, sort of mid-table, lower half of the table. We only have to play, I think it's West Brom, Leeds, and Sunderland in the next 15 matches. So you've got to think, if all being equal, you've got to expect us to get a good amount of points from that. And be quite comfortable, and we kick on from there, and we give Alex Neil his first summer, his first pre-season with the team, and see how we go from there. But yeah, I don't think it's worth getting too down and desolate just
yet. No, not yet. I mean, Rob captured it for me very nicely. They're not so much must wins, but must not loses.
Yeah,
I think that's a good way to put it. Everyone's been. I mean, and I think I've probably tried to err on the side of positivity on this show, listeners. So take that as you choose. But there is something in the side. I mean, to finish, ride Lady Luck and finish at 1-0 at half time, Merv, and then have a team talk. We don't know what gets said in the sanctity of the dressing room, but they came back out in the second half. With pace and movement, as Rob put it, and there was a turnaround in attitude. So words have been said. Let's not beat around the bush. But I didn't. Alex Neil spoke only positively at the end of the game, which is we touched on that already. But clearly, there's something in the team to respond to whatever got said, and that's something to take away from this game, this show. I think because it's not we're not totally destitute. We're not totally bereft.
No. It's a reasonably fresh start. And if you're gonna start with a new manager, I mean, I was really concerned last year that we let it go to the end of Feb before we got rid of Joe Edwards and Neil Harris coming. I thought it was too late, and we're not in anywhere near as dire a position now, having changed managers we were then. And I think Alex Neil's first. I think one of his interviews last week, he said about the playing style. He said you can't just hoof the ball.
No.
But you can't expect to play 100 passes around the pitch either.
No.
And he said, I'm very much a halfway sort of man where that's concerned, which is music to our ears, because I think we both agree that that's sort of what we want. I mean, under Rowett, we got good league positions, but we felt it was a bit too overcautious. And yet then under Edwards, it was too gung-ho, and then under Harris, it was perhaps too direct, some people would have thought. But so it seems to me that he's done his homework and he's spotted straight away what needs to be done. Obviously, getting that, actually making it happen, is a different thing. But I think if anyone can, I think Alex Neil can. I think we have got the best available, realistic candidate out there. I think, considering we were looking for a manager, I think he was the best available, and they've got the most chance of coming in to the football club and doing good.
Yeah, there's an interview with him that's going back to the Football League paper on the inside, their kind of lead article on the inside front page, where it's they've spoken to Alex Neil and they mentioned he's been successful. I think that's the key point. I mean, Bobby says 9 days to turn it around, and that's true. We've got to survive, and we've repeatedly across the show we've talked about survival, because I think that's number one priority, base camp if you want. But Alex Neil does have a track record of being successful. I mentioned Hamilton Academicals, Sunderland, Norwich. He knows how it's done. So tough, maybe, if you've watched a first half that people have been describing in the terms of having the show, and you've gone a long way to watch it, Merv. But I think patience is never easy. But you got, I think if we can be patient, there are better days ahead. That's my take out from
totally
from
agree.
Saturday.
Yeah.
I suppose if those goals had gone in and we finish up 4-1 at half time, then I might be a bit more miserable. But anyway, there we are.
So, like I say, as you said before, you can only hope that we've got the luck on our side as well for once, or in certain aspects.
Yeah, there we are. Merv, I'm going to say a big thank you for joining me on the show today. We're going to play out now, listeners, with Lawrence Binney. Big thank you to everyone that sent content in for the show. I really do appreciate it, especially on a day where I was in a children's birthday party and following the game surreptitiously, because you get told off for looking, Merv, when you're in
I've been there.
Because you're what you're doing on a phone. There's kids here that they want playing with, But anyway, I followed it myself that way, and I looked today, as I said. So a big thank you to everyone for sending the comment. It's really great, and it pulls me out of trouble, gives Merv and I something to talk about. We've got a funny FA Cup tie next week, Monday night, 7:30 kickoff. So very strange game for that. But I think Merv will be back again in a couple of weeks' time after the next league game, which is, memory serves,
2 in a row. Yes, Hull and Cardiff, isn't it?
Hull City. Then we've got midweek against Cardiff. So
3 home games in a row. So hopefully a bit more positivity to talk about then. Fingers crossed.
Catch up then. Big thank you, Merv Payne. And it's over to Lawrence Binney and Arrivederci Millwall. Bye for now.
Right, Nick, it's Lawrence Binney here, calling in after Sheffield Wednesday 2, Millwall 2. Fuck me. I think everyone needs to take a little breather after that. What a mental game. I think there are different ways you can approach how to view that game. I think there are so many narratives on play, it's really hard to start. I think just talking about the eye test, if you knew nothing about the sides, I mean, we had Sheffield Wednesday pants down for that draw. Let's be honest, they're a much better side than we are at the moment. I thought they were very impressive, actually. Like, I don't usually like to talk about the opposition because it's a Millwall podcast and my interest is really only in Millwall. But I feel like I need to with Sheffield Wednesday, because a year ago we beat them 4-0 and they were dreadful. They've since brought in Danny Rowe, one of the kind of rare sort of left field foreign managerial picks that's actually bore fruit. And you know what? He's not turned them into a Guardiola tippy-tappy side. They've got 2 really pacey, really physical wide men. And it's a smattering of quality in the right areas. And they play the sort of football that I think some of the best Millwall sides have played. Really up and at them, using that width, being direct but with purpose. That Musaba kind of reminded me of Eiffel in his pomp. That's the kind of Millwall side I want, and hopefully Alex Neil can bring to the Den, because they've done that in about a year, and with similar resources, if not less money than we have, bringing in the signings we brought in. I know it sounds very strange because Sheffield Wednesday are obviously like a big club and a much bigger club than we are, but they're not flush with cash and they've got a mad owner, so anything's possible. I think they're a dark horse for the top 6, and that's the sort of model that we should be looking at. We we were pretty woeful today, weren't we? We were. I mean, it was a different. You know, I think I mentioned last week that there's a certain type of poor performance we have, which is usually to not look like scoring. I think we looked like scoring at times today, mainly because Sheffield Wednesday were quite poor in defence and overcommitted. But I think also because Alex Neil has done something different in training. I think we're playing in a different way, and I don't know enough about football, the tactical ins and outs to say exactly what it was, but we tried to build today. We tried to play like those old Preston sides that used to come to the Den with Neil, trying different combinations with Esse and Ivanovic. I mean, it wasn't very good, but there was a sort of sense that, you know, we had an idea of what we wanted to do. We just couldn't, you know, execute it because we don't have the quality at the moment. And I think that was also reflected in the way that we dealt with conceding the equaliser. I think traditionally we would have put men behind the ball, shut up shop and tried to grind out a point. And we didn't quite do that. We were still committing men forwards in the 90th minute for that free kick, which is an interesting decision from Neil, because I think we don't really have the players to hurt teams going forward at the moment. But, you know, it's interesting. Maybe it's a Super Nanny thing, right? You know, where Super Nanny comes in. I don't know if you've ever watched the show, Nick, or any of the listeners. I suppose like Millwall supporters are not the demographic for Super Nanny. But, you know, Super Nanny comes in. You've got a terrible toddler who's been poorly parented. And Super Nanny takes measures to kind of progress things forward. But the thing about those measures is that they make things worse in the short term. So, you know, the kid who's crying, you don't give him the sweetie, you put him on the naughty step. You don't engage. And I kind of felt it was a bit Super Nanny-ish when I saw some of the players arguing with each other in the first and, well, throughout the whole game, really. There were quite a few tiffs between our players. I saw Lucas Jensen at one point almost kind of calming Japhet Tanganga down. So maybe it is, maybe this is sort of like, you know, trying to kind of implement something that might kind of not work for a while, but will hopefully see us progress further in the future. But then I'm also kind of like, well, maybe it's not Super Nanny, maybe it's Joe Edwards, and then my legs start to wobble a little bit, and I start getting the sweats. Interesting game. I mean, fuck knows how that translates to our next performance against Dagenham and Redbridge, or indeed in future league games. But it's clear that we need new signings anyway. Cheers for all your hard work, Nick, and come on your lines.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.